macro perspective to the micro, from the global innovation ecosystem to a truly astounding innovator who's helped turn the city of Chicago into America's fastest growing innovation center for product development and manufacturing. A fixture in Chicago's HARDTECH community, she's built not just one, not two, but three of the second city's top innovation centers. So from this perspective, she's innovation's version of the Bears, the Bulls, and the Blackhawks. Chief Experience Officer at mHUB, Melissa Lederer. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. God, that really is a great introduction. I think, like Mark said, I'm going to bring you home here to Chicago, and you can introduce me all the time.
I'm available.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Is that what I should do now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take over for that. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I think I'm ending the day, so I'm hopefully I'll keep you all intrigued and have a good opportunity to talk through this, what I think is an exciting topic, which is really about the role of corporate partnerships in commercializing new technology. Specifically here at mHUB, we're focused on HARDTECH, or physical products. But as Lee suggested, I've been in this industry for the last 10 or 15 years, focused on building innovation centers, incubators, accelerators, really building the entrepreneurial community here in Chicago. So I have a pretty wide view on this idea that I've been calling collaborative innovation. And I think it's really how industry and early stage innovator can come together, launch new products, add value to one another, create demand for new technologies, and really further that acceleration into commercialization of new products. So want to talk a little bit about mHUB, just to give you a background on who I am and what this is about. So mHUB is a 4-year-old innovation center here in Chicago. We are a 501(c) nonprofit entity, ultimately incubated out of the city to support regional economic development in the manufacturing sector and infuse innovation into manufacturing. We have a 63,000 square foot space. This is a quick, high level, very high, wish I could zoom in, picture of our space, but you can see that it has co-working of a traditional incubator, but also a lot of machinery and equipment for prototyping and fabrication. The idea of mHUB is that you can come in with an idea for a new product or a new product business and go from idea and really validate that idea all the way through prototyping and prototype refinement into design for manufacturing, figure out your first production run, maybe of 100 or so units, get it into market, validate, continue to refine and iterate before you ever have to leave mHUB. So you don't have to go overseas for a prototype. You don't have to figure out your supply chain right off the bat. And you can really build that here as you can, consider product market fit, talk to customers, and continue to refine to see if you've got a business out of that idea that you're developing. We have about $6 million worth of equipment here. Really everything from laser cutters to CNC to wet labs, et cetera, to support these entrepreneurs. And we have about 275 startups today that really range from everything in industrial IoT, IoT, consumer products, robotics, med tech, smart cities, energy tech, you name it. And we really believe that by bringing industry and early stage innovation together, as I said at the beginning, that's really how you're going to solve problems and how you're going to truly accelerate new technologies. These are just some of the partners that work with mHUB and are part of our community. They are providing access and intel. They are also interested in pipeline of early innovation and identifying talent and working with that talent on new technologies, as well as an outlet for their own innovators within their organizations to get to feel entrepreneurial and have that sort of entrepreneurial or extrapreneurial type of engagement. Over the last 4 years, our community of startups has generated over 400 million in revenue and over 700 million in capital funding. We've launched over 1,200 products, and those teams have been awarded over 400 patents.
Melissa?
Yes.
It's Lee Zeidman. I just want to interrupt for a second. I think that because you're not in show mode, that the slides are not advancing.
They're not advancing.
No, because I see not just your slide, but on the left, I see the slides that are coming.
What would it tell me to do? And I apologize.
Well, it's okay. At the bottom of the screen, there's a little box that has an arrow on it just to the right before where the volume and brightness are.
Right.
If you click that, that'll put it into show mode.
Okay.
It's on your screen.
There. Yep.
Your cursor's right next to it. If you just move one more over.
This one or this one?
Well, actually, your cursor's not moving at all. That's really weird.
Uh-oh.
You're frozen.
Zoom share, stop sharing. How about that? And let's
There
try
you go. So let's reshare and try it again.
Okay.
But I have to tell you, your presentation was so interesting, I didn't notice. There you are, perfect.
Without showing slides, I'm just talking. So
I have to tell you, slides are distractions.
That's sometimes the case. Okay, so you see my slides now?
Perfect, thank you.
All right. So this was just an overview of some of the milestones that our community has reached thus far. And now we're not moving. There we go. So this is a community of innovators really focused on physical products. So you can look here at some of the technology clusters that I was mentioning before, consumer products, aerospace, med tech. It really runs the gamut. And in the middle on member composition, this is the type of innovators. We have about 1,000 innovators within our community. They're a variety of engineers, mechanical, electrical engineers, designers, developers, embedded software designers, and they are all working together either on new products or contract manufacturing type of solutions with outside entities. And they are really at that sort of discovery and delivery stage. So they're really building their products, still refining, and continuing to escalate into that commercialization path. Some of the companies that we've supported, startups, as I mentioned, about 270 today. We've probably helped over around 400 in our 4 years. And they're across the sectors, you can see some of these companies, they have all raised over $1 million in funding. So some of our top companies, and they have continued to sort of hit those milestones and accelerate. Some have raised in the range of $30 million, but nice, steady, consistent growth from these organizations. And as you can see, a real wide swath of sectors that they touch. So I think what's really interesting to talk about today is this idea of collaborative innovation or corporate partnership and how industry can tap into early stage innovation to fill gaps in their own pipeline, to identify partnerships or acquisition, to identify talent, and really on the flip side, how these entrepreneurs can have access into industry to help them get intel, to help them understand their market and continue to refine for capital, partnerships and pilots. It's really what I like to think about as a yin-yang type of a relationship or two sides to the coin. And I think that startups cannot be successful if they don't have access to industry. Otherwise, they're existing in a vacuum. They don't really understand their market and they don't really have that true intel to understand where they can, sort of inject or disrupt that part of the market and really have impact. So on the left-hand side, and at mHUB, because we think of manufacturing and hard tech, we specifically are talking about manufacturers here, but you can cross that out and put really any large industry and how they can tap into early stage innovators. But the idea is that, you know, for them, oftentimes talent is really hard to come by, particularly top talent. And we know today that it is incredibly hard. The market is very tight for talent. Engineering talent in particular, but they come with obviously industry intel, that domain expertise, that knowledge of their market. They are perceived as established and stable, often risk averse. They have a brand that they can't risk. They have often that they have to answer to Wall Street, and they tend to move like a big ship, a little bit slower and less nimble than their counterparts on the other side. But yet they need access to problem solvers. They need to continue to innovate. They need to continue to stay ahead in their market and address, you know, the changing landscape. And they do have resources and they have capital. So here they are sitting over here thinking, what's next? And they're coming up with new ideas. But instead of creating new R&D, can they either align with, acquire, partner with an early stage innovator who has an opportunity or has an idea that they're already working on, and that with a little bit of insight and a little bit of direction can be a real win-win on both sides. And on the entrepreneur side, they have the talent, right? They have a high level of risk because what do they have to lose? And oftentimes they're just going to go for it. Their runway is typically short because they don't have the resources, they don't have the capital that a larger organization has. They're bootstrapping it. They've raised a small angel round. And usually the runway then is, you know, 18 to 24 months we see before that's either going to succeed or they're going to go back to doing something else. But they really need that partnership, that access with the industry, with corporate, to help them understand the market and to, you know, identify potential partnerships or customer opportunities. So if you see in the middle, right, what are the opportunities of this relationship when they come together? And it's really this idea of, can they cultivate talent on both sides? You know, there's the knowledge giving and sharing, and there is this opportunity for the startups to work with industry and really capitalize on that brand or that sales channel. The corporate has obviously those networks and the relationships already established that the entrepreneurs covet and want. And then there's really just a broadening of resources on both sides. And I think that when you look at the experiences that we've seen, there's this opportunity for corporate to create demand. What is the demand for a particular technology? And that really helps them share that knowledge with the entrepreneurs so that the entrepreneurs can build their solutions in response to the demand of the market. And we feel like in a lot of the programs that we've launched, that there is this opportunity to de-risk an investment by creating that demand on the front end. So you get corporates involved, they tell you the technology areas that they're interested in identifying or working with. We go then and source the teams, or we give that intel to the startups. And then we create that collaboration, that opportunity for them to engage and work together as they sort of further these new technologies. And it ends up being this real win-win between both sides. So I want to talk about a couple examples that I think are kind of the aha of what I was just talking about. One of our business units is called HARDTECH Development Services, and it kind of plays into everything that I was referring to related to access to talent. So corporates are often, you know, they're in a silo. They're a little bit myopic. They don't necessarily get outside of their walls very often and talk with other innovators. And when you think of a community like this, or those communities around the country, these incubators, this is a melting pot of innovators working together. And HARDTECH development is the services is a way to help corporates or manufacturers access and tap the talent pool that we have here at mHUB. They can identify a project, they can identify some skunk work or some R&D work that maybe they either don't have the talent to work on, they don't have the time, they want to sort of get someone to work on it on the side. And we can bring the brain power of the innovation community together and curate a team of innovators that come from different viewpoints, different experiences to work on that challenge with those corporates. And this is one particular example that is with a company that we worked with for a long time, Marmon Holdings. Marmon is a holding company of many small, medium-sized manufacturers. And they brought in their chief innovation officer to have a session about a challenge that they were trying to solve with a new product. And we brought in a number of entrepreneurs who worked for a day on this challenge. And shortly within the conversation, a few of the entrepreneurs came up with an idea, and the chief innovation officer, who's in this picture, looked at his fellow teammates and said, how did we not think of that, right? So during 15 minutes into a conversation that we have been struggling with for 6 months, all of a sudden someone came up with a brilliant idea that they hadn't thought of. And I always think that that's such a great story because it's just the idea of getting out of your way, right? Getting out of your four walls, bringing in different perspectives, an outside-in perspective in a way that you can solve a problem that you wouldn't typically do because you're so closely connected to it. So we do these types of sessions, these design sessions or these curations of teams to solve problems with industry and entrepreneurs all the time. And it really is just this aha of all of these different individuals working from different perspectives and vantage points. And oftentimes they're not even from the same industry. They come from a different perspective and solve those problems. And it really furthers that innovation. Another one that I think is really interesting is during COVID, mHUB, along with some of our peer innovation centers here in Chicago, were really focused on an immediate response to COVID, particularly in the early days and the shortage of PPE and ventilators and sanitizing devices. And there were a lot of hand raisers in the community that wanted to do something. These innovators said, I think I can solve this. We can come up with a solution to a new kind of PPE or a ventilator alternative. And this particular solution was really from an ask that we put out to the community where corporate leaders in the industry, from folks like Johnson Controls and Microsoft, came together with some of our other organizations and some of our startups, and they just got cracking at designing alternative ventilator solutions. And an outcome of that was that it was really inspiring to see this melting pot of talent and ideas, both from industry and from the entrepreneurial community, working together to solve this. And they came up with several different iterations of ventilators. They had local health systems that were sending clinicians over to give feedback and participate. And it really was this just community-wide effort. And the ventilator, one of the ventilators was a sub $500 ventilator using off-the-shelf components. And it's actually gone in for a DARPA grant, was accepted for a DARPA grant. But what's most interesting is that one of the gentlemen from Johnson Controls said that he was amazed because someone had suggested using pieces from a car carburetor as some of the components in this ventilator. And so again, that outside-in perspective, that collaborative innovation is really how we believe that corporates will get new pipeline of technology and talents, where entrepreneurs will get access to the information that they need, and that relationship will help accelerate and further new technologies and new disruption in all types of industries. I think I'm coming upon time, so I am going to just say that this is really at the heart of what we do at mHUB. And you can see kind of the values that I just repeated for both corporates and early stage innovators. I encourage, if you're interested, to really reach out to the startup community from a corporate perspective and really understand their needs and what your needs are, and have those types of conversations to solve problems together. And visit us at mHUB, mHUBchicago.com. So thank you very much.
Excellent, Melissa. Thank you so much. It is fascinating to think about what happens when you have an open mind and you allow everyone to have a seat at the table, because that truly is the foundation of innovation.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you again.